Sales friends, hear me. Please hear me as I say this. The job, the J-O-B of a professional seller is to justify the delta, the difference between our premium high price and the lower pricing of our competitors. That is our job. So when I hear a salesperson whine and say stupid things like, well, if our price was lower, I'd sell more, my immediate and honestly angry reply is that if our price was lower, we probably wouldn't need you.
This is the Sales Management Simplified podcast with Mike Weinberg, the podcast to help you master sales management, create a winning, energized sales team, and the healthy, high-performance culture that every sales leader craves. Tune in for straight talk and blunt truth as Mike and his expert guests tackle today's toughest sales challenges and offer practical, powerful tips to help you lead more effectively, have more fun, and win more new sales.
Sales friends, sales leaders, Weinberg, I hope you're outstanding. Welcome to episode number 20, which is sponsored by the New Sales Simplified video coaching series, which also just happens to be my very best work to help salespeople and sales teams win more new sales. And this episode is sponsored by the year-end special on that video coaching series. So head over to mikeweinberg.com/more new sales. If you want to make 2022 your best sales year ever, and you're ready for some breakout success, you want to create more new opportunities, be more effective at developing new business, and close more new sales than ever before, head over to mikeweinberg.com/more new sales and take advantage of the special pricing and bonuses and our year-end offer for the New Sales Simplified video coaching series. All right, we are just back from Purdue. What a weekend. Katie and I jumped in the Sales Truth Volvo, headed over to West Lafayette, Indiana to spend the weekend with our son, Kurt. Friday night, we met him at Mackey Arena, which is an incredible venue for college basketball. I've never heard it that loud before. Of course, it had been a few years since we'd been there because of COVID. But oh my gosh, it was a blackout. All the students were dressed in black, head to toe. It was the Big Ten opener. Iowa was in town. The game ended up being a nail biter, but Purdue pulled it out. What a blast. I believe by the time you're listening to this, Purdue will be ranked number 1 in the nation for the first time in school history. So we're pumped. My son is pumped. He's got senioritis. He got his career job offer a few weeks ago, so he's in great space emotionally. He's a huge college hoops fan, and we are living vicariously through him, hoping that this team is bound for the Final Four. So great time with Katie over the weekend. We got back late yesterday, and I've been pumped to record this episode. Here in episode 20, we are putting the wrap on this mini-series where for the last month or so, we've been looking at these ugly 8 common reasons that sometimes we get viewed as amateurs and we get downgraded or relegated to just vendor status and end up being nothing more than commodity sellers in the customer's eyes. And the last episode, which was number 19, friends, it was a doozy. It generated more feedback and more comments more quickly than any episode we'd put out in forever. If you haven't yet listened to episode number 19, I want you to stop, and I mean it, push stop, and go back and listen to that one first, all right? It's titled, Salespeople Who Act Like Obedient Order Takers and Yes Men or Women Don't Win More New Business. And friends, oh, the irony of being a teacher and living publicly and authentically. Last Monday, okay, this is just a few days before we are releasing that episode. We'd already had it recorded. I listened to the audio edited version. I was so pumped to get it out there. And then last Monday, I personally experienced 2 completely unrelated buying process, in air quotes, buying process incidents is what I'm going to call them, with 2 different clients. One of the clients was new to working with me, and the other one I was being engaged to do a second thing for them. They were asking me to come speak at their big sales kickoff in person in February, which is great. And sales kickoff season is basically sold out, and I was thrilled that I had a spot left to offer to this client. But these incidents as I call them, they were painful, and they were due 100% to the fact that in both cases, I relaxed my selling process, and I was either too kind or too accommodating. And I just kind of bent my own rules a little bit to be a little easier to work with. And I say that like cringing, because when you hear episode 19, if you missed it, you're going to understand why I'm so frustrated with myself that I did that. But the end result was that both of those incidents, because I didn't stick to my own guns, they came back to bite me and my team. And it created aggravation and redundant work and frustration and some tense conversations with the clients that could have been avoided if I just would have been firmer on the front end. And the irony of the timing of that, and feeling myself that I was being treated like nothing more than a vendor right in the middle of doing this series. Well, I'll tell you, it wasn't lost on me. And because I like to be transparent and authentic, I went out on LinkedIn on Monday and I posted what had happened. I posted on LinkedIn. It got quite a reaction, a lot of chuckles, a lot of empathy from other sellers and sales leaders, because we all deal with this, friends. And I'll just quickly paint the picture for you. Neither of these were major things, and we ended up rescuing the business in both cases. But oh my gosh, the work, the frustration, the grief, the wasted energy and emotion. So in one of the cases, I acquiesced to the tiniest little request from this mid-sized company, accounts payable people. They had a bunch of hoops they wanted us to jump through to get set up as a vendor for their company. And instead of being a stickler and sticking to my guns and insisting that full payment was made ahead of time, and my rule, especially for sales kickoff season, is you pay me upfront to secure the date, period. 100% upfront. I don't bank the client. There are no payment terms. There's more demand than supply. If you want to book me, you got to pay upfront. I was not going to do the planning meeting with the senior leaders until payment had been received. Well, with all the hoops they were making my assistant jump through and getting us set up on their system, I went ahead and relented, said I'll have the meeting with the execs, because my calendar was so full and so was theirs, and I didn't want to push it back. Well, as soon as I let that happen, all of a sudden the AP people started asserting themselves. Now they're dragging their feet. The payment's not coming. They're asking my assistant to jump through even more hoops. And before I could even tell what was happening, now they're telling us that there's going to be a fee. They're going to charge us a fee for paying us via ACH and just transferring the money to our bank account. And I read that and I'm like, are you kidding me? No company charges for that. In fact, most accounts payable people are begging you to use ACH so they don't have to go through the process of setting up, the whole check writing and printing and mailing and postage and all that hassle. ACH actually saves the money. And we started getting notified they wanted to charge us a certain fee, almost as high as a credit card fee, for them to transfer the money. So we had to push back, and anyway, it ended up being fine, but it was hassle I didn't need, all because I relented. In the other case, the other incident, I made a couple of mistakes. And in the first one is that I allowed this sales enablement person, who was my main contact, who had reached out to us to explore having me speak at their kickoff and doing some other stuff with some content with me. I agreed to just have that first discovery meeting with the sales enablement person, even though deep down in my gut and from my own experience, I knew there are going to be sales executives involved in this. The senior leaders of this company, it was a tech company, owned the outcome of this meeting and cared deeply about what will be covered. I shouldn't be doing a discovery meeting with just the sales enablement person. But I relented because it got set up that way, and I did it. And I really did believe that this enablement person owned the outcome to a certain extent, and that they had the juice based on the way this person was speaking with me, that person had the juice to make it happen. Well, that was mistake one. And then, because this enablement person was truly amazing, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed the conversations with this person. I mean, they're awesome, energetic, creative, full of ideas, passionate. So I've enjoyed the conversations and was excited about what we were putting together. As the opportunity materialized and became more real, instead of doing the right and responsible thing, which would have been to engage with the senior execs and get them involved. So I was hearing their perspective and building consensus among them and fleshing out their objections and making sure I really understood what they wanted as an outcome so I could assure them they would get that. I deferred to following the lead of my contact, who was basically driving everything. And I crafted the agenda. We did the proposal. We did some other kind of creative things. I don't want to be too specific here because I don't want to reveal any identities, but I did a lot of great stuff. But what resulted was predictable. When my contact went and presented all the things that we had worked on, the execs pushed back. They had some concerns. There were some challenges. And my contact didn't have the juice to get this thing done without my help or me speaking with them. And they didn't buy into the plan that was presented to him. And that created more work, more redundant selling effort, more meetings that needed to be scheduled. And frankly, I was extremely frustrated. And you know whose fault it was? It was mine. So friends, I just share those two, and they're pretty small, but they're real life examples from your humble or not so humble at times podcast host and sales author. And it's just living proof that acquiescing to your prospects often doesn't work out so well for us. So in this episode, we're going to look at the final two of these ugly 8 common reasons that salespeople come across as nothing more than vendors and commodity sellers instead of the value creators and the consultants and the trusted advisors we so badly want to be. And reason number 7 is simple and straightforward as it gets. It's that salespeople are insecure about price or too quick to make it about price. And sales friends, I'll tell you that when I'm leading a workshop or doing a session on this topic, it takes a great deal of restraint for me not to yell when we're reviewing this particular issue as part of the workshop. Because honestly, I am continually amazed, confused, and saddened by the general level of insecurity that almost all salespeople demonstrate when it comes to pricing. Sales friends, hear me. Please hear me as I say this. The job, the job of a professional seller is to justify the delta, the difference between our premium high price and the lower pricing of our competitors. That is our job. So when I hear a salesperson whine and say stupid things like, well, if our price is lower, I'd sell more. My immediate and honestly angry reply is that if our price was lower, we probably wouldn't need you. Think about it. If your company was the low-cost leader, why would they need to deploy highly compensated salespeople? They wouldn't. And if you've got the lowest price, you're essentially Walmart or the Amazon in your space. You just hang the price out on the internet and you advertise, we got the lowest price crap, come and get it. Friends, for all that's good and right in the world, please, please, please stop whining about pricing and being priced higher than competition. And I joked in chapter 14 of Sales Truth that if there was a union for professional salespeople, I'm so proud to be a salesperson that I would volunteer to be on the board of directors. And honestly, I'd campaign for president. I'd run for president of the board of professional salespeople if there was such an organization, right? A union for sellers. And if I got elected president to that organization, my very first edict would be this: members of the organization shall be strictly prohibited under any circumstance from complaining that their company's pricing is too high. So let it be written. So let it be done. Signed, Michael J. Weinberg, President. Friends, why? Why would that be my first declaration as the head of the sales union? Well, 2 big reasons, right? Think about what unions care about. Higher price is job security. Like I'm coming out of my skin as I'm sitting here recording this, jumping out of the chair. As I said a minute ago, that's why we have a job. And if we had the lowest price, we would be superfluous as salespeople. We should want to have higher pricing, especially because of the second reason that I declare that edict, which is the fact that the gross margin, the profit that we create by selling at premium price, is what allows us to make good money as salespeople. So if you like your job and you like the opportunity to earn good money, then you should join with me in being for premium pricing. And honestly, there's another great benefit from being priced above the market. Higher prices communicate higher value. And frankly, I can make the argument that in many instances, it would actually be harder. It would be more difficult to articulate value and the value that our solution creates for customers if our price was too low. Friends, you know this. Customers aren't stupid, and everybody gets it. Everyone understands there's no such thing as a free lunch. My dad had this expression when we were kids. My sister Jody and I quote him on this all the time. My dad said this: buy cheap, get cheap. And it's true. Everybody knows it, right? Value follows price. People expect that you're worth more. When your price is high, it connotes that you have a value and it's worth more. There's a reason that people are paying your pricing. The reality is so many of us in sales, we exhibit insecurity when it comes to either holding firm on pricing and selling at full price and not discounting, or we also freak out and we're nuts and totally lack confidence if we have to pass along a price increase. Now, for most of us, and I'm 54 years old, right? And I know the majority of the listeners of this show are younger than I am. So I know what I'm about to say is also true for you. The reality is that for the first time in our careers, we are now selling in an inflationary market. Everyone, and I mean like everyone knows and understands that costs have increased significantly. And when you combine that, the fact costs have increased with the reality that we've got these supply chain challenges going on right now, and there are shortages everywhere that many companies are wrestling with on top of this escalating cost that's driving inflation. Honestly, there really has never been an easier time to both A, sell at full price, and when necessary, B, confidently pass along a price increase. So friends, this is the time. You may have been insecure in the past about talking price or holding the line on pricing or passing along a price increase. But if there's ever been a time in history where we need to stiffen our spine, increase our confidence, get over whatever this false sense of fear or guilt or insecurity about holding the line on the pricing, it's right now, because everyone understands that pricing's going up. And I'll just wrap up this particular issue with a quick story. About a month ago, I was leading a workshop for a favorite client of mine, large company, few $1 billion. Sales team is awesome. They're energized. It was so much fun to be together with them in the same room for the first time in a few years. And we're going through this session early in the day, and we're taking a look at the common reasons that A, we don't create enough sales opportunities in the top of the funnel, and then B, the reasons we get commoditized, many of these 8 reasons we've gone through in this series. And I got to this particular topic on being insecure about price, leading with price, being the first to make it about price. And I asked the group, why do we have such a hard time holding the line on pricing and selling at list price? And I made the case, just like I have here for you, that if there's ever been a time in history that we can, we should, we must sell at full price, it's right now. And we had a great dialogue in the room, and people were really honest and transparent. And salespeople in front of their peers and their bosses, they were admitting that honestly, it was laziness, it was insecurity, it was the bad habit of just automatically assuming we needed a discount because we're in a very competitive market. And that was just reality. In a lot of cases, it boiled down, if I could sum it up in one word, to fear. And we were making great progress. Everybody was nodding and rallying around the idea of being more bold. And then one goofy ass salesperson sitting in the back of the room raises his hand and basically says something like this: I hear you guys and I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think I can do it. I don't even think I can feel okay about selling at our regular price. And then everyone kind of perked up and looked at him like, what the heck is he talking about? And then he said, what if something goes wrong with our product? And then what if we don't do so well when we service it, or our service organization drops the ball when attempting to fix it? And I don't think it's right to expect them to pay full price unless we can be absolutely sure and guarantee that everything will be smooth. And then he keeps going. And then he says, and if we're going to disappoint them, well, I think we need to discount. Friends, I kid you not. You cannot make this stuff up. So now that he said it, it's out there, right? It kind of destroyed the whole mojo we had going on in the room. And everybody is looking at me up in front of the room, and they're just waiting for my reaction at this point. And my face must have had this unbelievable, bewildered look on it, right? Half of it was from the shock that somebody would say something this stupid and how twisted his thinking was. And the other part of the shock that he didn't have the filter to stop himself from what really was a career-limiting move, revealing how goofy and insecure he was in front of the entire sales team in his division and his boss and his boss's boss. So I stood there for a minute and I smiled. And then I said to him, it sounds like you're carrying around a lot of false guilt. And then people started to chuckle. And then to myself, I'm saying, what this guy really needs is counseling. Maybe therapy would be helpful to him, because this was a him problem, right? This was not a business problem. And then his manager turned towards him and said, now, come on. Do you really think the customer is going to be okay with us like screwing up service? And they're going to remember, oh, yeah, it's okay that they messed us up because the sales guy gave me a discount when I bought this thing a year ago? Come on. Absolutely ridiculous. So friends, I'll wrap up reason number 7, right? Being insecure about price, leading with price with this. I get it. I get this is a tough topic. I get a lot of us are insecure when it comes to either holding the line on pricing or passing along price increases. But maybe just this past 10 minutes hearing these stories and the consequence of being insecure about price is helpful to you. And really, here's my challenge to you. Let this new and unique season of life that we're in get you over the hump. This different season where we're dealing with supply challenges and there is inflation and price increases all around us. Maybe that will get you over the hump and help you become more bold and more confident to hold the line on pricing. And now we move to reason number 8 of the ugly 8 reasons that we get downgraded and viewed as just vendors and commoditized. And that's because a lot of salespeople can't tell the story. They don't articulate value, and they typically lead with either self, product or service, or company-focused messaging. Our story, our message is our most critical sales weapon. I say it all the time. It's your most important weapon because pieces of it end up in all of your other sales weapons. Think about it with me here. Talking points from your story, they show up in your social media profile. They're in your prospecting calls, in your voicemails, emails. They're in the positioning statements when we're conducting an early stage or discovery sales call. Our story is in our presentation, slide decks. It's even in proposals. And that's part of the reason that your sales story, your messaging, it's my single favorite sales topic. And it's the most popular topic I get asked to train on or speak about when I'm brought into a company. And that's because when your story is great, everything changes for sellers and everything about sales becomes easier. But most sellers and even most companies and most executives, they don't have a great story. They don't have compelling messaging. What do most people talk about, right? You ask a salesperson, tell me about your business, or what do you guys do, or what's your story? And whether you're reading their email or you're listening to a pitch or whatever it is, very often, what do we hear? What's the first thing out of the mouths of someone on the phone or when they're face to face? What's often the first line in an email, a presentation, a proposal? We do this, we do that, we do this other thing. We're the biggest, we're the best, we're family held. We've been in business 89 years. Here's our unique process. We've got 19 locations. And when I hear that, my initial reaction is, so what? Who cares? The single most painful experience of my sales career had to do with a botched sales story and me suffering through the most self-focused presentation that was being given by my channel partner whose company my little tech firm was selling through. And I tell the entire story in all of its cringeworthiness in chapter 13 of New Sales Simplified. And I also refer to it in the New Sales Simplified video coaching series. It was that bad of an experience. And I'll abbreviate the details here, but basically we're in the giant boardroom of an enormous company, and we're there to make a presentation and do a demo. And that's a whole other conversation because we never should have been presenting or demoing because we had done no discovery. But this is not about bad sales calls. This segment's about story. So the reality is it was also the worst example of how someone told their company story ever. And my partner had informed me he's just going to tee up our demo with a brief presentation, right? So the committee's in the room, the president of the division's in the room, and this joker of a salesperson stands up at the end of the table. And for 20 minutes straight, he puts up slide after self-focused slide after self-focused slide. I can still remember this nightmare. This memory is etched into my brain as strongly as like the days that my children were born. Those were good days. This was a really bad day. And the first few slides had pictures of his company's impressive buildings on their corporate campus. 3 slides with pictures of buildings. And sales friends, I'm just going to say this because I haven't said it before in the podcast. You should never, ever, ever, ever show a picture of your building in a presentation unless you work for an architecture firm or a resort. Otherwise, you should lose your sales card, right? So the first 3 slides are pictures of buildings. The next few slides are logos of the clients that his company does business with. I kid you not, right? The next few slides are organization charts, and then there's some flow charts and performance improvement process charts about how his company works. It was the most painful experience. Finally, after 20 minutes, the president is fuming. He pounds the table and says, damn it, I want to see the demo. And I'm like, hey man, thanks for the nice tee up, you loser. So anyway, the bottom line there is customers, they don't care how great you think your company is or how pretty your buildings are or how much you love what you do. What do they want to know? They want to know what's in it for them. And the truth is that what we do is not important. It's what we achieve for our customers that matters. Let me say that again, because it's really the key. It's this pivot we need to make from self and product and company focused messaging to pivoting to being about the customer and their desired issues and their desired outcomes. It's not what we do. It's what we achieve for customers that matter. And the biggest sales story sin is that we continue to perpetuate self and product and company focused messaging. And that's why we get downgraded in the customer's eyes and come across just like pitchmen or vendors, because there's no way you can be viewed as a value creator or a consultant or an advisor when you're always talking about your company and your product. So if we're going to sharpen our sales story and deploy compelling messaging that sets us apart, that gets a prospect's attention, that justifies our pricing, increases our confidence, and positions us as the expert consultant value creator, then we have got to make that pivot from self-absorbed messaging to customer issue and customer outcome focused messaging. So let's stop talking about what we do and start leading with the issues we address for customers, the pains we help remove, the problems we help solve, the opportunities we help our customers capture, and definitely the new and better outcomes, the results that we help them achieve. And let me just review this list of benefits for you one more time, the benefits that accrue to the salesperson and the sales team when you have a great story. Because your story is everything. And when it's great, everything in sales becomes easier, right? And whether or not you use my help or our content to help you radically sharpen your messaging, you need to tackle this, right? Let me just remind you of these benefits. Justifying your premium pricing, right? How much time did I spend in the early segment of this podcast talking about our job as professional sellers is to justify the premium position and the premium price we have in the market. Well, how do you do that? It's with words. It's with your story. It's with value articulation. The other big benefit that comes from great messaging is it's confident. You're confident to pick up the phone. You're confident to prospect. You're confident to kick off a discovery meeting with a positioning statement, or you know that what you're putting on slides in a presentation is compelling and relevant and powerful and differentiating. Like, I have so much confidence in my own sales story. And whether you give me 10 seconds in a prospecting situation, or maybe 30 seconds after a quick introduction, or you've got a few minutes early on in a meeting, I'm going to say exactly the right things, whether I'm talking to a CEO or a senior sales leader or even an individual salesperson, because I know whether it's 10 seconds or 30 seconds or a few minutes, I'm going to say exactly the right things to intrigue the heck out of that person. And when I'm done speaking or writing, what they're going to say is, now that's interesting. You help people like me and organizations like mine. I want to know more. Friends, I want you to have that kind of confidence in your story. When your story's great, it powers up your prospecting, your positioning, your presenting, and it changes the entire dynamic of the sales dance. When we lead with the stuff that's on the customer's mind, instead of getting their defense shields that come up and they're cynical and they're resisting your pitch, the defenses come down and they start inviting you to tell them more because the things you're saying are relevant to them and they're top of mind. So you know this. If you followed me online for any amount of time or read any of my books, you know that helping to sharpen your sales story, it's my single favorite sales topic. It's also the fastest way, truly the fastest way to increase your sales effectiveness. The New Sales Simplified video coaching series, and I have a powerful short online course that's called Your Sales Story. Those are both incredibly effective tools to help you craft great sales messaging. And because of the special we're running on the New Sales Simplified video coaching series and that year-end offer, that's probably the better bargain for you right now. So I'll just challenge you again, if you want to experience breakout success in 2022, check out mikeweinberg.com/more new sales. Take a look at the 9 modules in that video series. The most important module there is module 4, sharpening the sales story. I promise you will get a ton of value from that. So sales friends, sales leaders, this has been a joy running through these ugly 8 common reasons. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for the questions. It's been obvious that we've had many, many, many salespeople and sales teams listening along with the traditional audience of sales managers to whom I normally target these episodes. But it's been great having salespeople and sales teams along as well. And I just want to say, as we put a wrap on the series, take a long look in the mirror. I really want you to identify which of these ugly 8 reasons is hurting you. I'll repeat them here one last time all together, right? And you can grab these at mikeweinberg.com/ugly8 if you haven't downloaded that PDF yet. But these are the 8 common reasons that salespeople get viewed as just vendors and commodity sellers. Number 1, they arrive late to the party or last to the sales opportunity. Number 2, they lead with their product or their service or solution. Number 3, they conduct lame sales calls and premature presentations. 4, they look, sound, smell, and act like every other salesperson. They come across same. Number 5, they play order taker. They do whatever the customer requests, and they don't own their process. Number 6, they aim too low in the customer organization. 7, as we covered today, they're insecure about price or too quick to make it about price. And finally, ugly reason number 8, they can't tell the story. They've got ineffective messaging. Friends, I'm going to do a Q&A session just on these 8 topics on December 16th. We had so many people write in and want to discuss, and we received so many comments by email and on LinkedIn from these episodes. I just want to do a free session Q&A. I'm not even going to teach. I'm just going to take your questions. If you want to join me for an hour online with other salespeople and sales teams just to review these 8 things and ask your tough questions, I'm up for it. Go to mikeweinberg.com/Q&A, and you can sign up for this free session. I'm not even calling it a webinar. I'm not teaching, just Q&A, your toughest questions around these 8 reasons that we get downgraded and commoditized. And I'm going to spell this out. mikeweinberg.com/Q-A-N-D-A. mikeweinberg.com/Q&A. All right? Sales friends, thanks for listening. Here's to great success, tons of new sales, sales managers and execs. Here's to great sales leadership, and I'll catch you next time.